I'm Nicole Romero, arts pastor here at The Crossing. Welcome to our brand new series, Spent. Thanks for watching. None of us want to end up empty or stressed or hopeless or spent. And in this series, we will use 4 weeks to cover 4 lies that leave us feeling spent. Don't miss a single week. The Crossing is the place for you to explore faith and experience the life-changing ways of Jesus. Go check out thecrossing.com/anywhere for resources and next steps to help you explore faith and to make the most of this series. And while you're at it, like and subscribe to our channels. We are consistently creating content to help you and your friends and family talk about faith and have lives that keep getting better. Enjoy.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Andrew, and today we are kicking off a brand new series called Spent. Now, I love this title because this describes how all of us feel after this past year. We are all spent, emotionally, spiritually, and many of us financially. So in this series, we're going to tackle this issue of finances because everyone I know has spent some time this past year stressing and worrying about their finances. And before you panic and turn off this video and start watching something on Disney Plus because, oh no, you finally got a friend to watch this video online and here we are talking about money, hang with me for just a moment. I know some of you have had really bad experiences with churches talking about money. I know some churches do a lot of weird things around money that quite frankly make me uncomfortable as well. But I want to take a moment and speak to the idea that all churches care about is my money. Now, statistically in the US, about 1 in 4 people who attend church give financially to it. That's pretty accurate of our church as well, which means every week on our campus, every week online, the majority of people who are part of our church, at the end of the service, they get in their car and they drive home. Or after watching our service online, they go about their day without ever giving financially to our church. And you want to know what we do to those people? Nothing. No one is ever going to show up to your door demanding you pay for using our kids' ministry. No one is ever going to come to your door with a bill for the weekend services you've watched for free over the years. In fact, you can be part of this church every week for the rest of your life and never give a penny to it, and no one will stop you. Now, go try that anywhere else. Today, go out to your favorite restaurant, order dessert, and at the very end, when the bill comes, just get up and just start walking towards the door. See what happens. When an employee stops you, demand to see the manager and complain that all this restaurant cares about is money. Good luck with that. Because we know businesses are about profit, while we, the church, we are about people. You see, we have a desire for this church that the Crossing would be the place people go to explore faith and experience the life-changing ways of Jesus. So we choose, as a church, to step in and talk about uncomfortable topics like money because that is exactly what Jesus did. In fact, Jesus probably said it best himself. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, he says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Jesus talked about money a lot because often our heart is tied into how we view our money. So today, we're going to kick off a series where we're going to look at 4 lies our world tells us about money that will leave you feeling spent, exhausted, and burnt out. So here they are. Just so you can know where we're going over the next few weeks. Lie number 1, it's my money and I'll do what I want. Next week, we're going to unpack the lie, more will make me happy. Week 3, I can figure it all out later. And then week 4, I have too little for it to matter. Now, as we jump into the series, I want to give credit for the series to 2 people who have had an incredible impact on me and helped me a lot. A pastor by the name of Gene Apple and a financial guru by the name of Dave Ramsey. Both of them have helped a ton for this series. So here we go. Lie number 1 today. The lie we buy into. It's my money and I'll do what I want. From a very young age, we learn this concept of mine. For example, a while back, I picked up Chick-fil-A for our kids, some chicken nuggets and waffle fries because I, as a dad, care about my kids eating healthy. So we sat down at our home for this gourmet feast, and I reach over and I grab one French fry, just one. And you want to know what? These kids of mine, they start freaking out. They got all mad at me for taking one French fry. You want to know what they said? They screamed out, they're like, "No, Dad, those are mine." To which I responded, "Oh, is that what you think? Well, who paid for this meal? Whose car drove us to Chick-fil-A? Who paid for the gas that got us to Chick-fil-A? Who pays for the roof over your head and the table we're sitting at? Actually, boys, these are my French fries. Mine, mine, mine." Now, aren't you glad that you have a pastor that when it comes to sharing food has the emotional maturity of a 6-year-old? You see, this concept of mine is hardwired into us at a very young age, and it's reinforced with advertising. Think about how many ads that have communicated something like this over the years that you've seen. You know, you work hard for your money. Isn't it time to enjoy it? Or take a vacation to Hawaii, or get the newest car or newest iPhone or whatever it is? You see, we go through life believing it's my money. I need to guard it and protect it. And even though this mindset causes stress and anxiety because we believe it's up to me to care about me and take care of my money, we hold on to this belief even when it leads us to make questionable decisions at work or with loved ones because I think this money should be mine anyway. Now, you can go and ask any person who's ever gone through a divorce, when does it get really bad? And they will tell you it's when the lawyers start trying to divide up assets because what's mine is now at risk. See, we go through our lives trying to hold on to and get what we think is mine. But in Matthew 25, Jesus tells this story that paints a radical different way of viewing my money. If you have a Bible, I want to encourage you to turn there. The story begins in verse 14. Jesus says, "It will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey." So here we have 3 servants who are given 3 different amounts. Now, you and I, we don't deal in bags of gold, but here in Orange County dollars, 5 bags of gold is the equivalent of about $9 million. 2 bags of gold, about 3.6 million. 1 bag of gold, about 1.8 million. Now, how many of you are feeling a little envious of these servants? Me too. But here's the question for you. Whose money is it? It's not the servant's money. It's the owner's. In case there is any confusion about this, we even see this phrase in verse 14. It says again, the man entrusted his wealth to them. Meaning, these servants are given a temporary assignment. They are not the owners, they are simply managers of the money. Now, all of you are smart and you've figured out by now that the owner in this story represents God. So right away, Jesus is communicating something that flies in the face of what we've been taught our entire lives. That whatever we have financially, it is a temporary assignment, which leads to our first money lesson today. I'm just a manager of my money. Now I get some of you may want to argue with me about that. You may be thinking to yourself, what do you mean, Andrew? I'm the one who works 50 plus hours a week for it. I'm the one who fights traffic 5 days a week to show up at an office and earn a paycheck. I'm the one who went to college. I'm the one still paying years later off my student loans. Of course it's my money. Well, check out what God says to his people in Deuteronomy chapter 8. He says, you may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. You and I, we have no control over where we were born. The family that raised us, we have no control over our mental capacity. All we have is because of God's goodness and grace. And it's all temporary. We're not going to take any of it with us when we die, are we? So I'm just a manager of my money, of what the owner has entrusted to me. Now the story continues in verse 16. It says, the man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. The first 2 servants, they understand that they are just managers of someone else's money. So they begin to put the money to work, which brings us to our second money lesson today and how we view our money here. Here it is. I'm responsible for what I've been given. There is a responsibility that comes with managing someone else's money. These 2 servants understand that they need to use this money in a way that pleases and fulfills the expectation of the owner. Let me explain it this way. Imagine I let you borrow my car to go pick up your grandma from the airport. How do you think I'll feel if later I found out you took my car to Vegas, sold it, took the money from the car, and lost it at blackjack? How will I feel about that? Not great, because I had an expectation of what you would do with what I entrusted to you. The same is true for God. He has entrusted to us resources with an expectation. So what does God expect us to do with the money he's entrusted to us? Well, Proverbs 19:17 says, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. Or one day there's this writer by the name of Paul. He sends a letter to a church in Corinth, and he says, on the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up, so that when I come, no collections will have to be made. The idea here is if you are part of the community of faith, there is an expectation that you are regularly giving a portion of your money away. That what has been given to you, what's been entrusted to you, is not just for you. That we give it away to the vulnerable. That we give it to the local church, which is advancing the message of Jesus in our world. Now, you may not know this, but our church is about 31 years old, and we have a tradition around here about doing both of these things. In fact, recently, we have restarted our recovery ministry. Last week, we kicked off a Friday night recovery program for people who speak Spanish. We serve our schools and homeless and so much more. Along with every week, we are continuing to lead people towards Jesus. In fact, around our church, one of the things I'm most excited about right now is that we are kicking off a brand new volunteer team. It's called the Legacy Team. It's brand new and it's welcome to anyone who loves our church and is willing to pray about where God is leading our church and has a heart for helping reach people with the message of Jesus and to bless our community. In fact, we've already kicked off with a few meetings, and I am so excited about how passionate so many people are about giving generously and being part of all that God is doing in and through this place. And I love it because God has wired all of us to give and make a difference with our money. You see, first, God calls us to give and then save a portion of our money. Proverbs 21:20 says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. You see, the wise, they store up some of what they have and they prepare for rainy days or a global pandemic, while the fool spends all they have. You see, we give, we save, and I don't want you to miss this one, we are also called to enjoy what God has given to us. Ecclesiastes 9:7 says, go, eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. See, the author, he's not saying go do whatever you want because God will turn a blind eye to it, but that we should enjoy what God has entrusted to us. So it's okay to enjoy some of what God has given you. It's okay to go on a vacation. It's okay to buy yourself something new. Now, we're going to talk more about this in the weeks coming up in this series, but for today, it's important to know the expectation of our owner is for us to follow his plan with all three of these: give, save, and spend. And it's important that we do it in that order. Now, years ago, I got taught something called the 10-10-80 plan. It's where we give our first 10%, we save 10%, and then we live on the rest. Now, my wife and I, we have followed this plan our entire marriage. So I want to really quickly walk you through it. So every time we get 10 of these, 10 $1 bills, we take the first 10%, which is $1, and we give it back to the church. We give it to God. Then we take the next one and we save it. And then finally we live on the rest. There's so many of these. I know, it sounds so simple. But doing these three things in this order, it aligns us with the heart of the owner. Now, back to our story. These first two servants, they understand the owner's expectation and heart. They use their money in a way that honors him. But then we come to the third servant, verse 18. But the man who had received one bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. Now, remember, the owner has entrusted something like $1.8 million to this guy. And he takes his money. He doesn't come up with a plan to honor the owner with it. He doesn't use it to help others. He doesn't even put it in a savings account. He just holds on to it. Which leads us to our third and final lesson today. I will one day return to God all that was already his. Let me say it again. I will one day return to God all that was already his. We see this in verse 19. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The same thing happens with the manager of 2 bags of gold as well. They return to God what they have been entrusted with. They come before the owner and they share what they did and how they used what they were given. They share how they honored the owner and how they used the money that he entrusted to them. The owner, which again represents God, sees what they have done and he celebrates them. But then we come to the last servant, verse 26, who had no plan, who did not honor the owner. And we read in verse 26, it says, his master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. And then in verse 30, the owner goes on to say, and throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, some people read this and they think the third servant is punished because he didn't make a profit. Remember the first servant, he had 5 bags of gold and made another 5. The second servant had 2 bags and made another 2. But this, it isn't a story about earning profit. It's a story about honoring and understanding the owner. You see, this third servant, he never realized that one day he would be asked to return and explain what he had done with what he had been given. He never thought about what the owner wanted. And the result is heartbreaking. And with that, Jesus ends the story. And the message was just as clear back then as it is today, that one day we will all come before the owner of all things. We will stand before God and give an account of how we have used what has been entrusted to us. Whether we're the type of person that's a 5 bags of gold kind of person, a 2 bags of gold kind of person, or a 1 bag of gold kind of person. All of us will stand before the owner. And I hope you hear Jesus' heart in this story as well. His intent, it isn't to scare you or guilt you, but he is for you. Jesus doesn't want you going through life like this third servant who got to the end of his life, who has nothing but excuses for the owner. Jesus, he doesn't want you to go through your life trying to hold on tight to what you think is yours and miss out on all that could have been, all that you could have been part of, the difference you could have made. You see, Jesus' heart is for you, And this is my heart for you as well. It's to point you to a better way. That I'm just a manager of my money. I'm responsible for what I've been given. And I will one day return to God all that was already his. You see, we partner with God to enjoy what has been entrusted to us, to make a difference and to bless our world. So here's what I want to ask you to do. Because change in our lives, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So here's what I want to ask you to do. I want you to go in your house. I want you to find a sticky note or grab a 3x5 index card, and I want you to write a phrase on it. Write, return to sender. And here's why. I want you to place it then in the front of either a credit card or a debit card and leave it on there all week. And here's why. We've probably all at one point in our lives, we've all had some mail that's returned to us with this phrase that says, return to sender. Well, one day, our money, all that's been entrusted to us, will be returned to the one who gave it to us. So this week, every time you open your purse or wallet, I want you to see this note and just remember that as we go throughout our week, we need to be having a conversation with God about how he wants us to give, save, and spend. And some of you, as you go throughout your week, you're going to have a God-anointed opportunity to bless someone in your life, someone who's struggling. Maybe you can take a friend out for coffee, or maybe you can give some of your resources to a charity that speaks to your heart. Others of you, you've been around the crossing for a while, and God has used this place to help you or your family. God is probably speaking to you today about giving generously back to this church because of how God has used it in your own life to grow your faith or encourage you or maybe make some great friends. You know what my wife and I do is we give automatically. We have set up reoccurring giving because we want to make sure that the first thing we do every time we receive anything from God is to give back the first 10% to further what God is doing. Others of you, you might realize this week that you have some financial challenges or problems. You may have a spending problem. Well, I have great news for you if that's you, because we have some amazing people at our church who would love to offer you coaching and help you get a plan together that helps navigate your giving, your saving, and your spending. You can send us an email at info@thecrossing.com, and we would love to help you start on this journey together. But wherever your next step is this week, I want you to remember that all we have is a gift on loan to us from a God who loves us more than you could ever hope or imagine. Let's pray. God, we come before you and we say thank you. Everything we have in every area of our life, God, is a gift from you. And so, God, we thank you. And we pray as we go throughout this week that we would be reminded that you are a good and gracious God, that we're just managers, that there is a responsibility you've put on us, and one day all we have will be returned to you. And so, God, help us to faithfully live this out. We love you. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
When you deliver every time on mountain tops, you stay the same on valleys low. You never change, and I believe that I will see the goodness of the your faithfulness remains. Oh yeah, you will remain. You go before me to prepare the blessing. You made a way, and it's more than I could imagine, more than I can fathom or comprehend. On mountain tops, you stay the same, and in valleys low, you never change. And I believe that I will see the goodness of the Lord. Yeah, I'm confident as seasons change, your faithfulness remains. So grateful for your faithfulness. Yeah. God of my present, God of my future, you write my story, you hold it all together. God of my present, God of my future, you write my story, you hold it all together. Yeah, God of my present, God of my future, you write my story, you hold it all together. God of my present, oh, you hold it all, you hold it all together. And I believe that I will see the goodness of the Lord. Yes, I will. I'm confident as seasons change, your faithfulness remains. Oh, you stay the same, yes. Oh, God of my present, God of my future, you write my story, you hold it all together. God of my present, yes, God of my future, you write my story, you hold it all together. So good, yeah. God of my present, hey, God of my future, you write my story, you hold it all. Oh, I will trust you, Lord. You're holding it all. Oh, you're right. My story, you hold it all together. Oh, yes, you're holding it all together, Jesus. Oh, you're holding me together. Yes, you hold it all together.
We can do this. We can clear out the lies that leave us spent and build our lives on the truths that really change things. You ready to get practical? Okay, first, we've created a free resource for you to get more out of this series and give you the support that you need. Go to thecrossing.com, or if you're already on thecrossing.com/anywhere, you will see a link right there. Dig a little deeper and set yourself up for a healthy financial future. If what we understand about the nature of money is potentially based on a few lies, then now we have a major opportunity to bust those lies open and find abundance and peace on the other side. You got this. You have a whole cheering squad over here, so get that resource today. And if you would like personalized counseling and financial health guidance, email us at info@thecrossing.com. We actually have specialists within our community who would love to help you get things on track. And as we learn the truth that we are managers of our money and not owners, we start to see all the opportunities to make a difference and direct those dollars to do the best good in the world. So where are you giving? If you don't give to the Crossing, please give somewhere. Let God direct you on where to send the money you are entrusted with. If you are directed to give to the Crossing, you can give through our app or on our website. If you are already giving to the Crossing, thank you. You know we take your donations seriously, and together we are changing lives physically and spiritually. Now, we know there are some of you who have the gift of generosity. You love to give and see God work through your finances. And for you, we are starting a new team, Legacy Team. Legacy Team is for you if you sense that God has given you the spiritual gift of prayer and giving. You want to give and see your gifts accelerate God's work through the Crossing. This team is for the people who have a sense of joy as God's money flows through their lives to expand God's kingdom. If you want to know more about the Legacy Team, you can go to thecrossing.com/legacy or email us, legacy@thecrossing.com. Don't forget to follow through on Andrew's message today. Get that post, get that little card, write return to sender on it, and put it in your wallet. Let's bust this first lie this week. Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to share this service on Facebook or YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We have new, helpful, inspirational content for you each and every week. Check out the links and more in the description for the service. We have content for kids and students too, so don't miss it. Thanks again for being here. We will see you online all the time and on campus Sundays at 9:15 and 11:15. We've got programs for all ages. We will see you soon.